Years ago, Canada's greatest race car driver died in a crash at training for the Belgian Grand Prix. Jacques Villeneuve was auto racing in Canada, and he is still remembered and revered by fans throughout the world. Last month, Villeneuve's son, Jacques Villeneuve, raced in Trois Rivières. Thousands of fans turned out to catch a glimpse of the young racer, whose father Gilles grew up not far from Trois Rivières. The inevitable comparisons between father and son were made throughout the weekend of racing, and while Villeneuve Jr. is a talented driver, his style is very different from that of his father. Bob Babinski has the story.
Vu que c'est de fils à ville, d'un ami, ça donne beaucoup de prestige.
That's taxi driver Léo Charette talking about the excitement in town over Jacques Villeneuve, the son of Gilles. It's been a long time since so many people have come to see the Grand Prix here. The Villeneuve name has given this event a lot of prestige. People like Claude Ayotte have come out to see if the young Villeneuve can race anything like his old man used to.
And I got real big hopes for that kid. He's got some of Gilles' blood in him, so he's gonna do good. He's gonna do good.
Jacques Villeneuve didn't disappoint. He drove a conservative race, picking his spots to move up in the pack before finally crossing the finish line in third position. The result was another bright spot and a promising career. For the last year, Villeneuve has lived and raced in Japan. He makes $150,000 a year racing for Toyota in the Formula 3000 series. Not bad for someone who's just 21 years old. He started racing professionally in Italy 4 years ago. He says he never felt any pressure to follow in his dad's footsteps. It's just something he's wanted to do ever since he was a little kid.
Well, I always wanted to race. I always knew I would race. And once I had the opportunity and I raced, that's it. There's no one day, oh shit, I would love to be a race car driver. Wow, that would be cool. It's always that I always wanted to do it. Anyway, I would have ended up skiing or motorbikes or anything like that with involving speed and something in middle like skis or a motorbike or anything. But I was skiing before racing, and I did some motocross for fun when I was younger. So,
is racing something you think was just in your blood? I mean, just...
Well, seeing the family now, I guess so. I mean, it's always something that, you know, when you're very young and you see your father doing, maybe you assimilate it better. I have no idea, but it's always been like that in the families, I guess. I don't know, I didn't question myself on that too much.
Jacques Villeneuve's choice to race cars was a curious one when you consider it was car racing that took his father's life. Jacques was just 11 years old when Gilles died.
The Nationals with Peter Mansbridge.
Good evening. Gilles Villeneuve, Canada's most famous racing car driver, is dead at 30. He died from terrible injuries he received in a crash in Belgium. It happened during
May 1982. The nation is caught off guard with this shocking news. Today, Jacques doesn't like to talk about how he felt when he first heard the news. He just says accidents are a part of the racing world. And although he was upset by his father's death, it's never haunted him. It also never stopped him from slipping behind the wheel. In his early teens, he left his family home in Monaco periodically to visit Canada. His uncle taught him to drive go-karts. He even went to race driving school in Shannonville, Ontario. Ironically, when he started driving professionally in Italy, he wasn't old enough to drive himself to the races. He didn't have a license. His mother, Joanne, had to take him. For Joanne, who watched her husband die in a race car, the decision to take her son to the racetrack was one of the most difficult she ever made. She says it's not easy being so close to racing.
Well, first, I didn't marry a race driver. He wasn't racing when I married him. That came along after a few years, so that wasn't by choice. And my son racing isn't by choice either, so I don't know, you just... I think that when you love someone, whether it's your son or your husband, you want them happy. If racing makes them happy, well, that's life.
It's easy to see why Joanne Villeneuve is a reluctant race fan. She was first the wife and now the mother of race car drivers. She says she wishes Jacques had chosen another career, but she can't force him to do something else.
I mean, he was always allowed his own choices, so whether it suits me or not, that's my problem. His problem is choosing what he wants to do and do it well. And that's what he's doing, so.
When Jacques races and he runs into trouble in a race, Does it bring flashbacks?
No, not really. But that's why I stay in the pits, because that's where the information gets in first.
So you don't? Are you actually watching the race as they're going around?
Well, from the pits you don't see anything, so it makes it very comfortable.
And sometimes you block your ears, or?
No. The ears stay open, but that's why I stay in the pits. That's where you get the information the first. If something happened on the track, they'll immediately come back to the pits with the information, and you're the first to know if everything's okay.
And so far, except for a few minor scrapes and bruises, everything for Jacques has been just that. Jacques Villeneuve says he's happy his mother is so understanding. He's been around race cars since he was a kid, and although the race world has taken his father away, it's also afforded him a comfortable life. The comparisons between father and son are inevitable, and they were being made from the day young Villeneuve stepped behind the wheel of a go-kart. Gilles Villeneuve was an exciting, sometimes dangerous driver who not only won races, but did it with verve. He made daring passes and pushed his car and his skills to the limit. He's remembered from his youth as a speedster, someone who'd drive anything as long as it would move fast. He raced for the pure thrill of it, and he was good. Gilles Boursier covers the racing beat for Montreal's La Presse newspaper. He says the younger Villeneuve doesn't appear to have inherited the daredevil from his father. He says Jacques doesn't race for the same reasons as his father, and that's why his style is more cautious. Boursier attributes the difference in style to upbringing, and not to the fact that Gilles died when Jacques was just 11 years old.
He wants to do good. He's in a position to do good, but he wants to make a good living, and he won't. That's not part of his life, to go fast in everything, to play around with boats and motorcycles and street cars. He doesn't do that like the father and like the uncle. So he hasn't got the same approach at all. You know, he's just a clean guy, a little bourgeois. Maybe he was raised in Monaco. Money came around. Villeneuve, the name opened all the doors, and you know, he's not bragging about it. He's very low profile, I think, but he hasn't got the same approach to racing, and I don't think the death of his father was a guideline in the way he would drive.
Jacques Villeneuve, le fils qui en prend large sur la piste actuellement.
Jacques Villeneuve has a long way to go before matching the exploits of his father. Gilles' driving record remains unchallenged in Canada. No other Canadian has ever raced regularly on the Formula One circuit, and no one else won a Formula One race. If Jacques Villeneuve continues to improve, some people think he'll eventually make it to the IndyCar circuit in North America. IndyCar is generally considered the next best thing to Formula One.
My father achieved something, but he's at the level that, I mean, it's something that you can't reach. It's something that will stay there for a lifetime. Even if you can reach that, that's not my problem. It's not my business. I'm making my steps. I'm making my own career, and having achieved something, I don't try to work in the shadow or overtake him. There's nothing to overtake there. I mean, it's a myth, and it will stay there, a legend.
Jacques Villeneuve is competing in the same game his father used to, and one day he might do it on the same tracks. But for now, Jacques Villeneuve wants to be Jacques Villeneuve, not Gilles, a young driver making a good living racing cars. His famous name may add some extra pressure on the track, but it also adds an extra touch of competitive spirit. The tragic end to his father's career no doubt tempers that spirit, and that may be why the younger Villeneuve lacks the passion on the track that made his father so famous. For the Inside Track, I'm Bob Babinski in Trois Rivières, Quebec.